It's a web-based series around the ins and outs of rugby here in Canada. I'm with Andy Blackburn. He is the under-20s head coach of the Canada Wolverines. Andy, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, so first of all, I would love for you to tell me the difference between the rugby leagues and the rugby unions, and what got you into rugby in the first place?
Well, rugby league actually runs in the family. I'm the fourth generation rugby league player. My great-grandfather, Harry, he actually played in the inaugural season back in 1895, which was when the Northern Rugby Union split away from Rugby Union to form what we now know as Rugby League. So he was the first generation. My youngest boy is now the fifth generation, so I suppose it just runs in the blood. In terms of the fundamental differences, Rugby League's 13 aside code, so 13 players, and Rugby Union's 15 aside, so there's 2 less players. And Rugby League is probably more akin to American football in the sense that you have 6 downs or 6 tackles to advance the ball down the field. And typically on the 6th tackle you'll kick for territory or possibly to regain possession. So a lot of similarities there with American football, and I would probably say the other big difference is the ball is probably in play a lot more in Rugby League than Rugby Union, in the sense that there are no line-outs, or there are fewer scrums and rucks. There's no rucks and mauls like there are in Rugby Union. So you typically see more action, more catching, passing, tackling and running with the ball, as opposed to the Rugby Union game, which is a little bit more cerebral and a bit more complex, where there are facets of the game that maybe the North American viewer would have difficulty understanding.
Wow, that is a lot of information. I think I've got a lesson in Rugby 101 right there. Now, speaking of that, okay, now we know that the league is obviously growing, and so youth development, I want to touch on that. Can you tell me the plans for BC and Canada overall to develop youth to up and come and represent our country?
Yeah, it's very exciting times for us here. It's only our 3rd year in BC, and the steps that we've made have been huge, probably propelled last year by our Commonwealth Games success at the U19 level, where we took a team that had never played rugby league before, that were rugby union players that we'd coached over 3 or 4 months to be able to go and play on the international stage against the best in the world, such as England, Australia, Wales. And what happened there was a bit of a miracle, in the sense that we beat England in our very first game of rugby league ever, which sent shockwaves through the rugby league world. And then we beat South Africa, another rugby powerhouse, and we actually placed 4th in the competition, narrowly losing out to Wales for the bronze medal. So what that did for us, it basically created a lot of interest among rugby players in Canada, but also among overseas teams who now want to come over and tour and play us. So what we're now doing to that end is we're developing and we're identifying talent at the younger level, at the U16 level, up to the U19 level, because we have a fantastic 4-year program, especially for kids in that kind of 16 to 20-year-old age group ahead, with some exciting world international tournaments.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So now how is it funded? I mean, why would the corporate community in Canada and in the province of British Columbia be interested, and why should they invest their dollars?
Well, funding is difficult, as you well appreciate, but last year we managed to get sponsors, local sponsors, to help us subsidise the cost of the tournament. Luckily, the Rugby League World also helped with accommodations and food and transport when we arrived in Scotland. But that's the challenge. The challenge is funding, especially when you have to travel overseas sometimes to play games, because we don't really have a solid league yet over here in BC and Canada, and our geography, as you can imagine, is always an issue. So I think when you look how far we've come in 3 years, the fact that we now have links with professional clubs in Australia, professional clubs in Hull, where we're sending young players down there for life and rugby league experience. We currently have 3 guys in Australia right now playing with a professional club and a feeder club. So the opportunities for our youth to go and travel and experience cultures abroad is huge. The opportunities for our kids to play this game on the international stage, and we're also hosting this summer, we're hosting the England Lions under 19 team are coming over seeking revenge from their loss last year. New South Wales universities are coming over, so we're getting exposure now from overseas teams coming into Canada, but we're also creating exposure by going abroad. So we do need funding, and I think the funding will come, and we have people who are interested right now, but it's year 3. It's early days in the grand scheme of things, but we're hopeful that when potential sponsors see the benefits of what we can bring for these kids and also for their companies, that we're hoping that we'll attract more sponsors.
And about the youth again, like obviously it's competitive for sports to play in Canada. Hockey is probably primarily the go-to. So why do you think it's important for youth to learn how to play rugby? What is it about rugby that you feel would benefit them?
You know, rugby league, rugby union, both codes, they to me they epitomise the kind of core human values that have acted as a bit of a moral compass in my life. And they've kept me grounded and focused, and I as a coach try and instill those values in everything we do. Yeah, granted we coach kids skills and tactics, but values such as trust, respect, honesty are very, very important. Integrity, accountability for me is a big one. It takes a big man to put his hand up and say, I made a mistake, and perseverance. And these are the values that I have managed to get from rugby all my life and make me who I am today. And I think it's very important that we as sports coaches take the opportunity when coaching young athletes to instill those, to underpin everything that we do, because my feeling is sometimes society lets our young athletes down in terms of these values, and if they're not instilled at school or in the home, we as sports coaches have a wonderful opportunity, especially in rugby, to get these values into our practices, make sure that our kids pick up on these values. And I've met many kids since they've left school who may no longer be playing rugby, who are terrific human beings because of the values that we've managed to pass on to them through rugby.
Great answer. Now, you obviously grew up watching the sport, so do you have a favorite player, and if so, who would it be and why?
Well, that's easy. That's Wally Lewis, known as King Wally. He's an Australian legend. I grew up in the 70s and 80s watching him come over to the UK and playing for the Australian team. He even played professionally for some UK teams like Wakefield. And the reason it's Wally is because he was the perfect embodiment of brains and brawn. Not only was he a fantastic passer, a fantastic kicker, a master tactician, he was as tough as nails. He never took a backward step, was never afraid to mix up with anybody, no matter how big or tough they thought they were. And they're the kind of traits and values that you look for in rugby league players, and it's very rare that one player has all those traits. And Wally Lewis, still to this day, 30, 40 years on, is still probably revered as the king. Probably the way Gretzky is over here, so yeah, that's an easy question.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, now everyone's favorite part of the interview series is going to be the rapid fire component. This is where I ask you as many questions as I can think of in a short period of time, and you try to answer as fast as you can.
Okay.
Are you ready?
No.
Okay. Perfect answer. Here we go. Favorite TV show?
Oh, MI5.
Who would play you in a movie?
Oh, Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson, taken 4 right here. Favorite pre-game food?
Pasta.
Favorite inspirational quote that you've heard? I'm sure it's from King Wally, but I might be jumping ahead here.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Good one. If you could go to the airport right now and get on a plane, where would you go?
Oh, Fiji.
Fiji, why?
Been there before.
Okay. And it's just for the relaxing atmosphere?
Just a kickback.
Not partying at all?
And the Fijians.
Got it. If you could go anywhere in the world and live for a year and have the same similar lifestyle that you have now, where would you go?
Oh, Vancouver.
Vancouver, yeah, I've heard of that.
I'm not from here, so that's my answer.
Right. Okay, good job on rapid fire. Thank you very much for your time,
Okay.
Andy. All the best.
Super. Thanks.